Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I will be doing alteration on my Mackage jacket. It got a little bit tight, so I will be removing this part. I will be removing the belt loops as well. I also will be removing these. I don't want them. So that leather trim, I like it, so it will stay. And also after I remove this, I'm gonna take a peek how much allowance is inside of those two seams. Will it allow me to make the coat a little bit bigger? Is there enough space for me to let out some fabric to make it more loose? Because at the moment it's like I don't have any space for my sweater and I'm only wearing a t-shirt. So it is a little bit tight, but it's like my favorite coat. I will get these guys removed first on one side and on the other side of the shoulder. Also, this is the back belt that's attached inside. It's on the side. No, it's like half mid at the front. So I am going to remove that. Belt loops, also going to get them out. These are going to be pretty easy. For that, I am going to do it with the razor. And to get to this part, I am going to enter the coat from inside. So I will make an opening somewhere in the lining to get inside. However, I'm not just gonna open just anywhere I feel like it. First, I'm gonna look if there is an existing connection that I can do it. If not, many times the coat, when it's finished, it's closed up in the sleeve area. So somewhere in the sleeve, there should be a top stitch. Yeah, there it is. See that stitch? It's different than all the other ones. The other ones, when you look at them, you can see that these are finished from the inside. These been sewn from the inside. This is a top stitch. It's a different one. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this stitch. So you can use like a clippers, you can use seam ripper if you have one on hand, you can use a razor, scissors, anything that you have and that works for you. So I'm just gonna snap a few stitches and gently pull. Should open a little bit. Cut the thread. So as you can see, I have opened the lining and now the sleeve, the inner part is all exposed. And what I'm gonna do now, I will reach in to grab this part to have that removed. But before I do that, I am going to disconnect these two. So I'm using my razor. I wouldn't recommend to use it unless you know how to. So don't use it if you don't know how. I don't want you to cut your finger. I don't want you to bleed. So use anything like, clippers, scissors, seam ripper, anything like that. So I have removed that stitch that was attached to the top of the shoulder. So now I'm gonna remove that leather part. It's like a loop. So I'm clipping it all out gently. Make sure you're not gonna cut the fabric because that would be a waste of your coat, and definitely it's a no-no. So that's it. That's removed. Now check for any left threads. Remove them if you see anything that shouldn't be there. Okay, so now, like I said, we're gonna go inside the coat and remove that part. But there's another option that you can do. So there are two ways how to do it. We can go from the inside, or we can just try to remove that from the top. It's easier to go from the inside. It can be also done the other way. So you gotta pull these two parts, the shoulder and then the sleeve part, like away from each other, and then the thread gets exposed. So you can see the thread now, and then you just cut it gently. Like I said, I do it with a razor. You don't have to. You can use your scissors, you can use your clippers. Seam ripper works as well. So it's done very well. You can't just rip it out. See, and then it's attached again. So a few stitches. Perfect. So one is removed. Clean the fabric. That's how it looks without it. So I will close that hole in a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the other shoulder. The other one I will enter from inside. I'm going to grab this part and pull through the opening in that lining in the sleeve. And as you can see, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So we will have to get inside over here. That's where it is. It's right in there. That's what it is here. Just cut and then gently pull. Okay, that's it. And this is how we're gonna close this hole. We're just gonna put that exactly back how it was. So we're not gonna touch anything. All I have to do now is to sew along that line, the old line. So I'm going to press the area where I had those, like the army flops, I'm not sure really what it calls. So I am also going to press that just to make sure it looks nice. So when you press sleeve, any sleeve, you don't want to press it, you shouldn't be pressing it from the outside, always from the inside, and also press it from the inner side of the sleeve. Don't do it from the shoulder area, do it from the sleeve area, because when you do it this way, then the sleeve will it will have that nice curve that you're looking for in a sleeve. You don't want it to look flat. It should look nice and round. I'm gonna turn it inside out so you get the idea what I'm talking about. So after you press the coat, I still have a few stitches to remove, but after you press it, the sleeve should look nicely rounded. So that should be nice. Just a few more threads to be removed and that should be fine. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move on and I'm going to remove that belt. I already removed the belt loops, the leather one, and now I'm just gonna repeat pretty much exactly what I did with the shoulder flaps. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so one side is done and exactly the same on the other one. And that's it. So the belt is removed. And now I'm gonna take a peek to see how much seam allowance is there inside. Will there be enough for me to let the jacket out. So make a little bit more room for my body to fit in it. See, there is a cut where it was marked where the belt's supposed to be, so it would be nice and even. So for that reason, I won't be able to use much from here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look for a different seam that might have more allowance, like the one inside. So see the seam that goes, that's a side seam that goes from under the sleeve all the way to the bottom. So I am going to use this one because this one should give me about 1 centimeter. So when I go this much, it should give me about 1 centimeter. But I'm also gonna look to the seam on the back, which is usually the most generous. So I will take a peek. Through that hole, I'm gonna take a peek. Yeah, so all of them are about the same. So the seam allowance is about the same for each seam. It is a little bit too tricky to get inside the coat through that sleeve. The opening in the sleeve makes it difficult. For that reason, I decided to open up the lining in the back of the coat to make easy access to it. Now I can perfectly see how much of seam allowance I have inside. So that should do. This is plenty. My upper body works fine. I don't need any adjustment in there. What I will be doing, I will be adjusting the coat from about waist down. It's a little bit too tight in my hip area, and that's what I will be focusing on, letting it out from waistline down. That's how the coat looks like from the inside. Plenty of space, plenty of extra fabric. And what I'm gonna do now, so the waistline, I should have pointed out that the waistline is usually marked with a cut. So what they do at the manufacturing, they mark every piece of the fabric with a cut so later on these two will align. And for that reason, that makes my work easier, that I know now where the waistline is starting, so then I can just easily start at that point and then make my seam along. So this is the waistline, and I will be sewing, like starting a little bit above and then gradually increasing and increasing, right? As much as I can, not too much, because I still have to have that of allowance. But with a coat, I would be very cautious. If you leave not enough, if you leave too little of seam allowance, the chances are, when we sit, our coat would stretch, and we don't want that to actually rip the seam. I went ahead, I removed the stitching, as you can see. So this is my new stitch line, and here is the old one. Well, this is how it looks like on the right side after I removed the stitching. So it gave me quite a little bit of extra space. So I would say about an inch, not an inch, centimeter. Hopefully you can see. So this is the old stitch line, and now this is the new one. So what I'm gonna do now, I am going to press this, but the pressing that I'm gonna do, it will be from the inside. So do not press on the right side of the fabric, because you will damage your the fabric, unless you have like a wet, a special cloth for pressing, then that should be fine. However, I don't recommend. I find it the best to press it from the other side, from the left side, and also separate these two seams. So while you press, you will want them to like separate, not together to either side, because then it's gonna look too bulky on the right side. So make sure that you are going to separate them. So that's what I'm going to do now. I got my little pressing board, perfect for this type of stuff. So make sure there's nothing else underneath. And like my coat's got like a leather trim. So if you have any leather trim, please avoid that area. Absolutely do not press iron. So I got my iron set to wool setting. So it must be very light. And then gently, if you have this steam, use that option. So I'm going to continue this on all my seams that I flattened them out. And then after that, I am going to close the lining and the coat will be ready to go. This is how it looks so far after pressing. So there's a little bit visible, the old stitching, but I will work on it once I have the coat finished up and turn the right side out, and then I'm gonna press it from the inside, so along the lining. So like I mentioned before, so that side I've already pressed. So the right side, I've pressed the right side from the other side. And what I'm gonna do now, I am going to press it again. I will make sure that it's nicely, that the stitch is nicely separated, just the way we did before when I showed you. And now I am just going to press the lining. Make sure your settings, the iron settings, aren't too hot, because lining is delicate. It's usually made of polyester, so you don't want to damage that. Just double checking. Yeah, it's polyester and a spandex. So mine stretches. There is some stretch to mine lining, so I will be not letting the lining seams out, mainly because I don't have much room to do so. There isn't any. So this is how it looks like on the right side. I think it looks pretty good. You can really tell that it's been letting out. Perfect. It looks fabulous. Just the way it should. Thank you for watching my channel. Please consider subscribing.